From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Trade tensions come home.
They are ready for it. They are ready to tackle whatever comes from the U.S.
The House prepares to vote on immigration reform. Will agriculture's needs be included in agribusiness?
Cotton has been on, the Deese contract, and really a spot contract has been on almost a 9-month straight up rally at this point.
Wow. And a slimy science project with potential for teaching kids in Tennessee.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. President Trump saying trade wars are easy to win. We'll see in the coming weeks and months if that's true, and at what expense to the U.S. and Chinese economies. New analysis from Citigroup's top China economists saying the $50 billion U.S. tariff could cost the Asian nation 1.5 million jobs and shave nearly a half point off their gross domestic product. The GDP is a measurement of the market value of goods and services produced in a period of time. Now, on Friday, the U.S. announced a 25% tariff on 800 Chinese imports beginning in July. China retaliated with import duties of about $50 billion U.S. dollars, including many ag products. A trade analyst saying Beijing was well prepared for U.S. tariffs and believes the tariffs were not a major threat to the Chinese economy so long as the U.S. was acting alone.
As long as the U.S. is acting more or less alone, and as long as the U.S. is also attacking other developed countries, China don't see a big problem. If the EU, Japan, and some other countries were to team up with the U.S. In a more sophisticated strategy, then I think they will be more alarmed.
The U.S. and China have the world's biggest trading relationship, but official ties are strained over complaints Beijing's industry development tactics violate its free trade pledges and hurt U.S. companies. Now, according to EC, Europe, Japan, and other trading partners raised similar complaints, but President Trump has been the most direct about challenging Beijing. Meanwhile, the U.S. continues to work on building closer ties in Japan. USE's top trade official Ted McKinney and other ag leaders were in Japan just a few days ago. The group focusing on growing the bilateral trade relationship. It's a goal for trade officials all across the administration.
With Japan, they've said, well, we're reluctant to do a bilateral trade agreement with the United States. My reaction to that is very frustrating in that, well, you just did one with the European Union, so you'll do one with them and not with us? We're going to continue to press Japan on this, and I think it's important for U.S. agriculture that we do that because next year Japan has a deal with Europe, Japan has a deal with Canada, Japan has a deal with Australia. Those tariffs are going to begin to tilt against us here, and we've got to address that and do something about that.
Dowd saying he believes the U.S. will virtually have its own Trans-Pacific Partnership deal if bilateral deals can be reached with both Vietnam and Japan. And we should know more about the fate of the 2018 Farm Bill as well. House Ag Chairman Mike Conaway saying they expect another vote this week. The Senate expecting to take up the measure before the July 4th holiday. Now, if both chambers approve the bill, House Ag Chairman Mike Conaway saying a conference bill is likely completed in September. One issue gathering speed and support in the Farm Bill and across the nation's capital, rural broadband. With millions of Americans still without a reliable and affordable high-speed connection, the issue has taken on new relevancy.
Yeah, I did.
Farmer Chris Cavan is a native of rural Nebraska. What's not native? Fast and reliable internet service.
We run a wireless internet signal that's hit and miss. Peak times of the day it's really slow. Weather affects it.
A frustrating connection for a farmer building his future with technology.
It would be nice if they could somehow find a way to get fiber optics into our rural grid.
A rural issue with a long leash.
But we must do more to ensure that the benefits of the information revolution flow to every American. That means working to close the digital divide.
And an even longer horizon. Currently, about 34 million Americans don't have adequate access to high-speed internet. About 80% of those people live in rural areas.
From USDA's standpoint, 29% of farm households have no access to rural broadband. And this has been, unfortunately, a continuation from one administration to the next.
But in the last year, the rural internet conversation has garnered strong support from the halls of USDA.
Farmers are creative people, they're innovators, and they're marketers in a way that if we gave them the connectivity to the world, it's amazing what I think you could see being created, not just in the garages in Silicon Valley, but in the farm sheds and barns across America.
And across the mall to the White House.
I think what you're going to continue to see from the administration is how do we get regulatory barriers out of the way to that deployment? How do we take federal assets that are in rural areas and leverage them for the folks that can come out and provide the broadband?
And resources are already pouring in. Included in the 2018 budget bill is $600 million marked for rural broadband. The Senate Appropriations Subcommittee agreeing to a 2019 budget for USDA and FDA that includes an additional $425 million for rural broadband expansion. There's also money earmarked in the proposed Farm Bill.
I think you're going to continue to see both from Congress and the administration attention to the monetary needs for deploying that resource. I think the issue here is how do you get your priority on the table and then get folks around the table to agree that that's a shared priority. We're past that point.
It's a feel-good issue. It's something that gets a lot of bipartisan support, but unfortunately, it's usually number 6 on the list of 5.
Even with money and desire to connect the unconnected, actually hooking up rural America has been an elusive task. Do we have a timeline of what it's going to take? How big a push is it to get connectivity across the country?
That's exactly what we're doing a census of now. We typically a Washingtonian way of doing business, we just throw money at it, just kind of shotgun approach here. What we're trying to do is a very data-driven, facts-based approach to where we are.
Part of that is knowing exactly where the country stands.
That's going to involve really mapping and getting into the mapping issue of where's rural broadband not accessible, where is it overly accessible right now, and how can we target funds to the areas that have no access currently.
This is the interstate highway system of the 21st century. It's data and it's connectivity and the things that it inspires out here in the fields and farm sheds of America could be monumental in our economy overall.
Farmers like Cavan, the ones living and working in those farm sheds and rural fields, say now is the time.
I think we're probably last the plate on needing it. Now we need it.
Now on to crop progress. The latest numbers from USDA show wheat harvest gaining steam in the southern plains. As of Monday, 27% is harvested, 8 points ahead of average. Big harvest gains in Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. As far as cotton, 22% is squaring, slightly ahead of average, and 38% is good to excellent, a 4-point decline from last week. Just 19% of Texas cotton rates good to excellent. Better than 40% is just fair. A tropical disturbance bringing some much-needed rain to cotton country in West Texas. One farmer near Brownfield saying, while the soaking rain is welcome, it's too late for dryland cotton.
The replant dates for having to replant cotton for the FSA is June 1st further north of us, and it's June the 10th further south. And as you can tell, we've already passed all those dates, and the cotton never had come up.
The corn crop in Texas is struggling as well. Nationally, corn improving a point with 78% rated good to excellent. But in Texas and Missouri, less than half of the crop is rated that well due to drought and dryness. The same is true for soybeans. Nationally, the soybean crop withering a tick to 73% good to excellent. In Missouri, it's just 44%. Mike Hoffman joining us once again this morning with a look around farm country in today's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. As you mentioned, harvest is in full swing in the southern plains. We found this video of harvest at sunset in Kansas on Twitter from Burgess Hill Farm. That's near Sterling, Kansas. Jenny Burgess says they're nearing the halfway point right now. Weather is cooperating so far. It's hot and windy. The crop this year is fair. Test weights are better than expected at 59 to 60 pounds, but drought hurt their overall bushels. Thank you, Jenny, for sharing that video with us. And taking a look at the wind speed forecast, it's a little bit breezy in parts of the plain states, especially central and southern plains. Out ahead of that cool front trying to come southward. Heading into the day tomorrow, then not a lot of wind to start the day, but it does look like it turns a bit windier through the afternoon, close to that front, Ohio Valley into the Nebraska area and parts of southern Texas. We'll have your forecast coming up, but first here are some hometown temps.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk more about cotton and the cotton futures market's recent rally, and later a messy lesson in chemistry for these Tennessee 4-Hers. Here at the Agribusiness Desk today, we have Craig Van Dyke, Top Third Ag. Craig, let's talk about a market that we don't discuss a lot, but has been one of the, I think, the hottest market over the last year or so, and that's cotton.
Cotton has been on, the Dees contract, and really the spot contract has been on almost a 9-month straight up rally at this point.
Wow.
And we're seeing open interest up near record levels again. So we're seeing a lot of people play in this market. Last year when we saw record open interest is when the market died. Now we've got major issues. It's very dry in West Texas and major cotton producing territory, and
right.
There's, from what I gather as well as the USDA gathers, is we got a lot of acres out there this year. So when you look at the price, demand has been fantastic, but when you're looking at 90-cent cotton here, that's up at past 8 years highs. To me, this is, in a market that especially goes parabolic like that, and a lot of the rally put on in the recent term, that's a market I want to be very cautious about topping out. And a lot of guys will bring up the conversation of back in 2010, 11 when cotton went to $2. Look,
yeah, crazy levels.
You cannot trade markets when you put the outliers in. So you need to look at the long-term average, what we're looking at historically. You're still going to have those outliers; they will come again.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, 90-cent cotton is a fantastic price for what we expect to produce.
How far out are you looking at that market? Are you looking into 2019 yet? 2019
cotton is trading around 80 cents, a little bit over. To me, that's been a very good price for guys to make money. So absolutely, I'm looking at that. And I don't mind personally playing the spreads a little bit if a guy wants to be selling, their 19 crop with the July 19 contract. At the end of the day, we saw this Dees contract be very steady when the front month contracts for 2018 have been the movers. So, with a 10-cent spread out there from July 19 to Dees 19, I think a guy can be willing to look at that spread as an actual risk management tool while being very careful as always. But, as far as markets go, we can't all be perfectly careful all of the time.
Right. Yeah. Well, it has been interesting. It's been dynamic. It's been fun to watch. I know it's exciting for the folks that have a crop in the ground and they're just hoping for the weather to get it harvested. Appreciate it, Craig. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
For a special report on the grain markets, call toll-free at 877-TT-HEDGE. That's 877-884-3343.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Your meteorologist, Mike Hoffman. Mike, I think everybody wants to know, what about the heat? What about the rain?
Well, it's going to stay hot south of this front. Yeah, no doubt about it. And there'll be some rain along the front, but most of the rain is going to be with that area of low pressure coming into Texas. Now, late last week, I was kind of hoping that this, it's not really a remnant of a tropical system per se, but it is tropical-like in its appearance. We were kind of hoping that it would get back into the panhandles of Oklahoma and Texas. It's not looking that way on our computer model at the moment. You'll get a little bit of moisture from it, but you're still getting some moisture from the southwest as well, which will give you some chances for showers and storms in those areas. But heading through the day today, you can see most of that activity is going to be in southern, south-central Texas. A little bit obviously moving up to the east with the flow off the Gulf of Mexico, parts of the southern Mississippi Valley. But other than that, it's mainly going to be focused along this cool front trying to come southward in that area of low pressure over the northern Rockies. Heading through the night tonight and into tomorrow morning, you can see a lot of this moisture is near and west of Dallas at that point. With that southern system and a couple of systems there from the lower Great Lakes all the way back into the Black Hills region and some of the surrounding areas. Seeing showers and thunderstorms tomorrow morning. Heading through the day, it's going to be again focused along this front, the area of low pressure coming into Nebraska and South Dakota, and this area of low pressure in Texas. That'll be hit and miss in the southeast and a little bit in the southwest, but really it's mostly southeast in this situation. So here's the precipitation estimate over the past 24 hours. Already some huge amounts in southern and southeastern Texas, adding in the next 36 hours. you can see how our computer model actually puts down more than a half-foot of rain in some of the south central and southeastern portions of Texas. It also shows some decent amounts, 3-4 inch amounts in spots anyway, close to this front from the Black Hills area all the way into the eastern Ohio Valley. Now, not everybody in those areas is going to get a lot of rain, but there will be some heavier showers and thunderstorms there. High temperatures this afternoon, hot and muggy south of the front, much cooler, much more comfortable north of the front. Same thing northern and central Rockies. Low temperatures tonight going to stay muggy from basically central Indiana southward. North of there it does cool off a little bit, and the front comes a little farther south during the day tomorrow, so a lot more comfortable across the northern tier of states. Here's what the jet stream is showing. It's showing that little cutoff in the northern Rockies, just barely moving through the Great Lakes over the weekend. Still a trough there, but then it does show a little bit of a warm up again by the middle of next week for the middle of the country. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. Rapid City, South Dakota, first of all, cloudy with a shower or two, high of 63 degrees. That's a little cool. Pine Bluff, Arkansas, mix of sun and clouds, high of 87. And Sunbury, Pennsylvania, warm with clouds and sunshine, high 86.
The heads of agriculture for the U.S. and Canada met last week. We'll tell you why dairy was a leading topic of conversation next in our dairy report, and later, learning to enjoy science through the slimy eyes of a 4-H experiment. In our dairy report, USDA Secretary Sonny Perdue spending time with our neighbors to the north during a visit with his Canadian counterpart last week. Perdue talking trade, including tariffs and NAFTA negotiations. Now, Perdue speaking directly about Canada's supply management system, saying, quote, "If you're going to have a supply management system, you've got to manage the supply and not overproduce and not over quota where you dump milk solids onto the world market and depress prices for producers south of the border." Canada's supply management system has been a contentious topic in recent weeks following President Trump's comments at the G7 summit. Later today, the president's expected to meet with House Republicans over its latest push on immigration reform. Lawmakers are thought to vote on 2 separate proposals this week. One measure from Virginia Representative Bob Goodlatte includes changes and reforms to the agriculture guest worker program. The other, considered a consensus bill, does not include language to address agriculture's labor needs. After the break, kids play in the lab.
We're getting slimed in Lebanon, Tennessee, next on AgDay.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. See the hardest working tractors in ag at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
Science can be a lot of fun as a kid, especially if the lesson involves something amazing or fun. In Tennessee, 4-Hers are learning the basics of chemistry by making slime. In this report from the UT Institute of Ag, Charles Denny shows us how messiness often creates amazing science.
Slimed in the name of science. These 4-Hers in Lebanon have their hands full of gooey coolness. They grab a bunch of grocery store items, mix them up in a bowl, and the result is downright slimy. Gage Harwell shares his recipe for a nice batch of slime.
First, you want to put your Elmer's glue in and put contact solution and shaving cream. If you can use shaving cream or you don't have to, I just use shaving cream because it makes it like fluffy slime.
The slimier the slime, the better. Glitter and food coloring can also be added. Don't assume all slime is green. There's also blue and pink, all colors. Here the 4-Hers get a lesson in several academic areas: textures, measurements, communication skills, and teamwork.
They're getting to actually bring something that is unique to their passions and their hobbies and show everybody else. It's kind of like show and tell, old-fashioned show and tell, but tailored to something that they're actually learning a process to.
4-H agent Morgan Beatty leads the group and likes doing this project with kids. It's a fun way to learn, and it's quick.
They don't have to do this whole if you were at home, you would stick it in the oven or whatever. Right. They can make it. They have the finished product.
My generation connects getting slimed with Ghostbusters. Now I know these kids have probably never heard of that movie. Regardless, this gooey exercise is about teaching science and the chemical reactions that go into making this stuff.
So there you go, lots of uses for this stuff. Fun and a little messy, a science lesson that kids are bound to like. The right chemistry for getting slimed. This is Charles Denny reporting.
All right, thanks, Charles. UT Extension agents in Wilson County say they've made slime and lava lamps with hundreds of kids at 9 schools. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. It's been part of your day with us. From all of us here at the AgDay team, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.